Hi, this is Dr. Goldcamp, and welcome back. So I'm going to pick up where I left off last time. We talked about vitamin D in a couple episodes and said how important that is for SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and a lot of other conditions. And we looked at how it depends on what you need, right? It's not the same for everybody. So we can't just have this one sort of, hey, everybody go do this and you'll be fine. It could be great for some people and irrelevant for others. Then we went on to glucose, to monitor your glucose levels and why that was important. And we saw a variety of normal people. We saw diabetics. We also saw some extremely stressed situations, like schizophrenia. And reasoned that, certainly my experience, is that if we leveled the glucose levels in some of these people, their whole personality will change. Okay. So now we're going to go one step further into a thing called epigenetics. That's a big word. It has to do with looking at your genetics. It has to do with specifically looking at your genome. I would like to take a small little piece of that to show you how important that is. Okay? So to demonstrate, and it's a pretty new concept over the last 20, 30 years. Okay? It's really come home. It's a tool we can use, and it's a way we can look at how we can help people that we ordinarily wouldn't have been able to help. First of all, let me give you an example of how impressive epigenetics can be. Do you know what the difference is between a queen bee and a worker bee? This is it. A queen bee and a worker bee are exactly the same, except that the difference is when there are both eggs, that the queen bee egg was fed a whole different diet of royal jelly. We know that. Okay, so what did that do? It's interesting. What it did, it turned on certain genes, the same of the DNA, the same DNA that the worker bee had, and developed an entirely different person, entirely different bee. And so the queen bee actually is a worker bee and has the same set of genes, but the royal jelly silences the genes to be a worker bee and wakes up the genes to be a queen bee. The difference is, just on diet alone, mind you, that the queen bee lives for about 5 years and the worker bee lives for 40 days. So it dramatically, obviously, extends their life as well as their focus. Okay, so what else? I want to take you into looking at a few different genes that are very common to look into relative to SAD, various metabolic disorders. So to be very precise, SAD, dyslexia, autism, severe depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorders. These are amazing that you can look into a few genes. You can get a report that you can get at home, and that it's not so much that you have this gene or don't have this gene, it's that you have this mutation. That is a problem, but is a problem that can easily be treated and completely change your life. You ready to go? Okay. So let's go on to Google, and let's say we do a few searches, and we're just going to throw in one gene, which is called MTHFR. So let's go MTHFR and schizophrenia. There's a lot of articles that pop up. It's pretty common to look there now. Let's go into MTHFR and major depressive disorders. Look at all these articles. So some of these are in PubMed and Google Scholar, pretty researched topics and places to go. MTHFR and autism, MTHFR and dyslexia, MTHFR and suicidal ideation in children, MTHFR and seasonal affecting disorder. So the point there is that it has an application that's very broad, but I'm also going to say that it's still very superficial just to look for one particular mutation and to think that you're going to get all these changes. I would like to take you to a larger perspective and give you what I look at and give you an analogy so it doesn't seem so complicated for you. Okay? All right, first the complicated picture. Here we go. This is how people talk about part of your metabolism, and they talk about folic acid cycle and methylation cycle, but three different enzymes, three different genes that control these enzymes. MTHFR, you now know a lot about that. These are two other ones, MTRR, CBS. Okay, you go, oh, that just got confusing. Well, what I want to show you is these are in essence two traffic circles, right? You have the folate traffic circle and you have the methylation traffic circle. Let's go into a different graph of this. Here's the methylation cycle, the folate acid cycle, and then something that basically has a lot to do with neurotransmitters. So let's pretend you're a traffic cop right now and you're over Boston and you're calling down at rush hour and you're trying to report to the people in the cars and you're saying what the situation is as you see it. Well, guess what? People with these particular mutations are going to have a traffic jam. So that traffic copter is going to look down and saying, you know, the methylation rotary is a bit congested right now, and the folate rotary is congested. It looks like we're going to be in gridlock for the next couple hours. So what does gridlock look like metabolically with these people that have this particular 3 different enzymes that could possibly be a problem? How would we know that, and what would the results be? Well, the results have to do with, as we've mentioned before, a lot of different disorders, but they're all about a lot of what they call mental disorders, psychiatric disorders. It actually has to do with cleft lip and spina bifida as well. So let's go further. How would we know this? Well, we get a report. This did not exist 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we were guessing. We would have no idea of how could one person look to check if they had certain mutations. And these are what they call common mutations. So they're called polymorphisms, something that can be addressed. All right. So these are those 3 traffic jam mutations, MTHFR, MTRR, and CBS. This person here, and I'm going to throw you some examples. This person here has a history of diabetes and addiction. What do they have here? This is a blockage. So that would be a major traffic jam on that first traffic circle. This would be a major traffic jam on that second traffic circle. And this would be less of a traffic jam. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, this happens to be me. I have a major traffic jam at a major traffic circle, and that explains why I'm very dyslexic. Okay, and in my family history, we have a family history of addiction, not necessarily among siblings, but parents' generation, it's Irish, German. And so this is now assessing my traffic circles. You are the person looking down at my traffic circles and saying, we got a log jam here. We have severe congestion. We have partial congestion. We have partial congestion. What else would we have? Here's another person. Same thing. Major blockage, difficulty in one traffic circle. Another. It says insulin resistance person. 3 SNPs. These are called singular nuclear polymorphisms. That's just a fancy way of saying it's a mutation. And another person, history of heart problem. I left that one out. Heart problems are definitely part of these 3 combined problems, not just MTHFR. Boom, boom, boom. And the last one, no significant history. Well, that makes sense. This, when I look at this plus and minus, that means you have a mutation on one chromosome, not the other. One chromosome, not the other. One chromosome. So there's a good chromosome there. So you have a pretty good working order. So this is how we look at it. This is just sort of culled out from a genome report, but it's appropriate. So for these people, their family histories are riddled with depression, addiction, perhaps cardiovascular, that can be changed by addressing these things. So now we look at, and we'll get into for the next video, is that what about some of what they call these cofactors? These are the same traffic jams. Methyl, folate, and neurotransmitters. These all are intersections. We've listed those mutations that are going to cause a problem. The question is now, do we have the nutrition? Do we have the cofactors, which are basically vitamins and nutrients? Do we have the micronutrients to treat those particular traffic circles, those particular enzymes? And that's why when we go down to vitamin D, to monitoring your glucose, to genomic reports, we can address these things and completely change people's lives. It's remarkable to watch this, and to take you on this little journey. So next we're going to look at nutrients and how they interplay with these mutations, with these traffic circles, to help us get rid of that traffic jam and to allow us to regularly, and I forgot to mention this, but the key importance about mutation is it turns genes on and off. And it happens about 1 billion times a second. Can you imagine that? That's how throughout your whole body you are methylating and unmethylating. And you need to have the methylation process work well for you. If you don't, you have these disorders. So therefore, we need to identify if you have a traffic jam, and then we need to do what's necessary, which is basically making sure you have appropriate nutrition for these particular mutations. I hope that helps. It's very exciting. We'll take you on to the next one. Bye-bye.